listening to you now, to this program, what would your message directly to them be?
My message would be that they don't have to be alone with what they're struggling with, and that they can call Childline for free at any time of the day or night, even if they just want to talk about how they're struggling or how they're feeling. They can call us free on 0800 1111, or they can contact us via the website. They can have a live conversation with the counsellor through the website at childline.org.uk. They can send us an email, or they can speak to other young people who might be going through the same things on that website. And I would really say that it's a safe place to call, and that we will only get you the kind of help that you want. And if you want it to stay private between you and Childline, then you absolutely have that right.
Thank you very much indeed, Belinda, for joining us on Carers World
Okay.
Radio. Thank you. That's Belinda Howell, who is from Childline. She's a counselling supervisor. Just to repeat those details that Belinda gave us, www.childline.org.uk, or simply put Childline into Google search and they will come up. The telephone number she gave, the free phone, it's free and confidential, 0800 1111 0800 1111. You can also have an online chat with a counsellor via the website. Visit or post on the message boards.
It is interesting, the issues that she actually raises, I think, because the most important thing that I think has been raised from what I can see is the fact that children come to the Childline and they don't always identify themselves as a young carer. And I think with that in mind, there is this is where it becomes complicated. At what point does a young carer become identified as a young carer? And I do believe, it is my strong belief, that at every level we should be trying and aiming to identify them in order that they can help themselves and feel good about themselves. As Louise said, that her self-esteem was raised. And with that in mind, we have another young carer who has been kind enough to speak to us today, and that's Russell. So now we have on the line Russell, who is a young carer. Russell, thank you so much for joining us, because we know your time is very precious.
That's all right.
Now, Russell, tell me a little bit about, as a young carer, what your, I was going to say duties, but it probably isn't like that, but what you do in the home to help out that qualifies you as a young carer.
Well, my sister is disabled. She has Down syndrome. So I have to help my parents do just basic chores, so cleaning the house, washing up, and help my sister sort of get up ready for school, make sure she's ready on her transport to go to school, and just making sure that she's okay.
So is your sister younger or older than you?
She's younger.
So you weren't always sort of like in that caring role. It's already came upon you in sort of gradual steps as you sort of took on that role. What was the point at which you suddenly thought to yourself, or did you suddenly think to yourself, "Gosh, this is I'm caring here. I've got a lot of responsibilities," or did somebody else point that out to you?
I never actually realised until someone pointed it out to me. I just thought I'm just doing something for my sister. I never thought it was caring at all. Well, I thought it was caring, but I didn't think it was sort of classed as being a young carer.
And from that, the minute you started sort of being told that you were a young carer, at what point did you sort of start thinking, yes, actually, I am perhaps doing, more than other people of my age might be doing?
It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago when I started secondary school.
And
I
how
started to realise.
And what sort of the things that you feel that you, particularly as a young carer, does? And I say this was absolutely, I'm sure you absolutely adore your sister, but thinking about you as in your own right, what are the sort of things that made you realise that this was not what your friends were doing, and how your life might have been impacted by being a young carer? What were the things that were happening?
I don't know. It was just mainly a lot of attention went to my sister, obviously, because they've got to keep her safe, and her education is more complicated than mine. So it was sort of when she was trying to move primary schools, that I sort of started to notice that a lot more attention was given to my sister because of the complexity of the issue.
So in that respect, it was not that your needs weren't getting met, but certain of your needs presumably were sort of diminished, potentially undermined by no fault of yours or your parents, but there were certain things that perhaps you needed to stand up for or have other people stand up for you on your behalf.
Yeah.
And how did being a young carer and sort of help you? What are the sort of things that you do? What are the sort of things that really facilitate your life so that the balance is more equal in your life?
Not much really. I mean, as I sort of got older, started doing A-levels, the caring did sort of die down a lot because obviously, I'm in quite a high pressure situation, and because my sister has sort of learned how to sort of care for herself and stuff like that, so caring has died down quite a bit for me.
For those people that are young carers out there that want to get involved, and also for sort of in terms of speaking to people who perhaps don't understand what young carers do, how important was it for you to be appreciated and acknowledged as a young carer?
Very much. I mean, the government see it as you're a statistic, whereas people, who look after young carers see you as a young carer, a human being, not a statistic, which means that, you can feel so much happier than what you normally do in home life.
Well, Russell, thank you so much for joining us on the programme today. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your perspective. And it's nice to hear from the young carer, and because let's face it, statistics don't talk quite as nicely as you do. So thank you so much for joining us today. That was Russell there, who is a young carer, and bringing back actually that concept that I think even I had kind of forgotten. I'm sort of hailing young carers' rights as much as I possibly can, but I think I'd forgotten in all of that what he said at the very end, that sense that it's not about the statistics, it's not even necessarily about the policies, it's actually about the young carers being considered, thought about. I mean, that's what we're trying to get to, but he said it so well. It's not about the statistics. That's not the living, breathing soul with a heart. And I do think that is, what these policies do try to get to the bottom of. But he said it there so eloquently. Once he got defined as a young carer, once he was in a sort of system that was working in his favour, once he had a peer group that he could talk to, he felt so much better for it and so much stronger for it, and it was like he had more feathers in his wings. So
yes, it's almost like, in a much more serious way, the old comedy sketch about the doctors' ward rounds, which of course is a very topical issue at the moment for another forum, but where all the doctors are clustered around the patient, standing on the bed, talking about the patient, and not realising the patient's a human being standing up on the bed. And it's almost in a more serious way, of course, because the impact is far more serious. It's similar to that, where that's the statistics thing, and forgetting it's about real life, as you say.
Yes.
So certainly, for part of a young carer's life is spent at school with all the pressures of peer group, exams, homework. Apart from the Department of Health, we've also been talking to the Department for Education, and they've given us the following statement today. They say, supporting young carers is important to this government. We want young carers to be healthy, achieve and have the same opportunities as other children do. We agree that schools have a key role in identifying and supporting young carers. Good practice is already being developed in a number of schools, such as having a nominated lead teacher that young carers can talk to and who could be responsible for providing information and raising awareness about their needs. The statement goes on from the Department for Education. The carers strategy emphasises that a young carer's education, training or employment opportunities should not be adversely affected as a result of their caring role. They say that services should provide information about the availability of support to encourage carers to come forward to access help. The Department for Education and the Department for Health, in conjunction with the National Young Carers Coalition, have produced an e-learning module for school staff aiming to increase awareness in schools of young carers' issues. And talking of schools, that's now the area we turn to.